Blazing the steel. Bring the heat. Mix it non-stop. Non-stop. With the hottest DJ.
I'm your host, Joshua Diaz.
Non-stop.
Welcome everybody to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. We got a special show for you tonight. Special guest, former team member of AWP, will be joining us via phone. And we'll ask some questions and he'll answer what he can. Once again, we'd like to thank everybody for keeping it respectful. I always appreciate that. Let's see here. Ta-da. What's up? Make sure to hit that like button on the way in. Please hit that like button on the way in. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And like I said, we have a special guest on the show tonight. Anthony, former member of AWP, is joining us tonight. Are you there, Anthony?
Yeah, how you doing, Josh?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
And I appreciate you joining us. I've kind of been messaging with you for a couple days, and I'm sure it's been an interesting, weird, everything that you could probably imagine under the sun, emotions for you. How are you doing?
It's been tough. It really is. To see this happen is horrible, because the reason I'm doing this is to, one, spread light on the situation. Not enough mainstream is covering this. I feel bad for the I don't want to use that the V word, victim. I want to say, I guess, survivor. I want to show support for the survivor and shed light on this subject, because there's a reason there's no statute of limitations, because it's such a horrible thing to even think about, let alone to have to deal with something so close to you and your friends and ones you called family.
So tell me how you became aware of Adventures with Purpose. How did you first hear about them and then connect?
Well, it all started back, I want to say, probably end of 2019, maybe the end of the summer of 2019. I started getting into diving and was watching a lot of diving YouTube videos, and honestly, they used the banner that had a dive flag, and I'm like, all right, this seems like a legit channel that's focusing on diving at the time, and they did, and I was like, oh, this is cool, maybe I can learn some things or whatever, and I had a great time. I was hooked, and I contacted them in November of 2020 and sent Jared an email saying, hey man, I'm a certified diver in the Northeast. If you ever need any help, I have the tools, the equipment, and the experience to help you guys out. Volunteer, because that's what his message was. And within a week, he responded, and I met up with him and a bunch of other people in Tennessee of 2021.
And
in January of 2021.
And it just went off without a hitch for you. I mean, you just got along with everybody, and you were off to the races, basically, correct?
I mean, yeah, it was great. There was some awesome people around, great characters. Sam was there, Doug was there, some other people from YouTube channels that I had never met or seen before, but I got to know them, like Nug, and some other good guys, and it was great getting to know them and becoming friends with them. I mean, it's tough when you spend hours, working, eating, hanging out after hours, traveling. Like, you build good friendships quick,
Mm. And I want people to understand this. You and I had a conversation earlier, obviously before this, and I wanted to just clarify. I asked you. I said, well, you never really spoke out earlier when it didn't work out with AWP before the Kylie Rodney. I call it a debacle, but I mean, I understand that they, did some really great things. I'm just talking about the coverage of it itself. Now, tell me a little bit about why it didn't work out, and why you were hesitant to even speak out about it. Probably because people would say, "Oh, he's just jealous," or "It's sour grapes." And I want to say, I talked to you about this earlier. It is no sour grapes. It is no jealousy. But why don't you go ahead and just fill us in on that?
Well, I mean, like I said, there could be a lot of things I could say if I had, like you said, sour grapes or jealousy. And that's not the case. I'm just here to tell the truth from my eyes, from what I've seen in my perspective. So I personally can only speak from myself.
And what was it? So basically you were told that you were going to be a full-time employee of AWP, correct?
Yeah, I was offered a job from them. So basically it started out, like I said, I did that trip in February of 2020 for the Tennessee trip. And then Doug reached out to me in March of 2022 and said he was going to be on a trip from March 17th to March 22nd to work a few cases in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and he wanted me to, join up with him as much as I could during that trip if I was free. I said, yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I reached out to Jared to see if everything was great on the up and up. He said, yeah, they'll pay for my expenses. I'll stay in the RV. They'll put food. They'll pay for the rent-a-car, flight, whatever I needed to get me and my stuff out there to join Doug for that week. And it just so happens we then solved the James Amabile case in March 21st, I believe it was. And that was, to me, one of the toughest cases they had, as opposed to the logistics of recovering him and the vehicle. And it was a very, very dangerous job, very swift currents, very cold water temperatures, dark. There was a lot of debris in the water, and we had to get a crane involved with straps. And there was like Doug and myself diving and two other law enforcement divers that were tethered. So it got very, very dangerous quick. And when it was all said and done, me and Doug, looked at each other and had a heart-to-heart, and we're like, wow, man, if we could dive like that together, I would trust you, with my life, like, because we just dove some really serious conditions together. And that's when, our bond strengthened on that trip. And then later on, I didn't hear back we stayed in contact till about May, and that's when Jared was talking about putting a second RV on the road. Was before we found James in March, and probably after May, he really started talking about it and making the moves to get two RVs and two trailers on the road. And that's when I, was still in contact with Doug and kind of threw my hat in the ring, like, Doug, man, I would trust you if I was out there with you on the road. I don't know how you feel. And he kind of felt the same way. And then that's when he told me, Jared, give me a call. May 9th, that's when Jared called me, offered me a full-time job, told me about some allegations that might come up or that I might hear from other people or third parties. And then from May till September or August 23rd, I was under the impression I was going to be a full-time employee with AWP. And I wound up signing a employment contract and a non-disclosure agreement on July 29th of 2022. So when I found out that I wasn't working with them, which was kind of done in a grimy way in my eyes, but it's not what I think. I didn't have a platform.
Yeah.
I didn't have a channel with 100,000 subscribers or millions of subscribers. I felt it wasn't necessary for me to go telling and screaming my story from the mountaintops to put in a character assessment of somebody. If they could do that to me, what are their true motives or intentions behind this?
Mm-hmm.
And I personally didn't have a platform or a way to do that. So I just, figured, who cares? That's just, nobody's going to care about it.
Did you sign an NDA?
I did.
Okay.
But
it doesn't matter.
Everything happened prior.
Right.
All my experience with AWP that I'm speaking about all happened prior to July 29th of me signing the non-disclosure agreement.
Mm-hmm. So you said, you're offered this full-time job by Jared, and then we'll talk about, you said that he himself mentioned some allegations that could possibly arise. What is because there's a little bit of confusion as to exactly what Jared's role with AWP is. So could you clear that up?
Yeah, Jared, as of, again, July 29th, at the bottom of when I signed those contracts, when it said Jared Lelsek, CEO, he was the active and current CEO and operator of AWP up until, I can say, at least July 29th, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And he would be on the road. I mean, almost 8 to 10 months out of the year. Like, this guy was traveling nonstop with Doug for a while. And he was, once Doug or Sam left and Doug came along, they were on the road so long that Jared was taken off. The business was taken off. He was getting more media exposure. He was trying to get 2 RVs on the road, purchase another RV, outfit a trailer, and talks of a second team coming down the road, not only to help other families, but he had the budget to. So he stayed home. Was the story he was telling the public, was he wanted to take more time off of the road. And I started seeing a notice of that as early back as March of this year when it was Doug on the road. So he was not on the road pretty much all of this year. Mm-hmm. And I can only assume that correlates to the February email.
Mm-hmm.
or any fallout from the February emails that might have arose. Because
yeah. So let me ask you this. You said that he brought up allegations to you and offered you a full-time job and wanted to forewarn you that maybe some skeletons may arise. Is that correct?
Yes, but I want to say first and foremost, I didn't know about charges or the indictment because nobody found that out until the beginning of November, a couple of days ago. But I was told that there were some quote-unquote possible allegations. He didn't get into specify exactly what those allegations were, but something that was within the family that might arise based on some things that might come up. And he was vague with it. But again, I was getting the phone call to get what I thought was one of my dream positions as a job, to get paid to be a diver, to do what I love to do. and to help families out. It was a win-win. So in my position, I didn't say much. I had questions, but I didn't feel out that was the place or time to ask those questions based on the position I was in. So I let him say what he had to say. I didn't think it was anything this serious based on how he was implying that these allegations are within his family, and there was never used the S word or the SA word. So I didn't know exactly what it was pertaining to. I just knew there was some past allegations. And
did you know it was family
what exactly
issues?
That was. I knew it was within the family. Yes. He did he did say family. It was in the family.
So what he told
category.
you was that, hey, there could possibly be some allegations coming out about me. Did he tell you not to worry about them?
Yeah, he pretty much made it seem like it was no big deal. It was in the past, that his family had all put it in the past, and that it just may arise again because of the popularity of AWP and himself.
When did you first see the emails?
I personally didn't see the emails until I want to say it was Mel's channel. He had the emails.
Okay. Yep.
I know there was talks they were on Reddit for weeks and months. They've been on Reddit for a while. I personally didn't go there and look at them because, again, I kind of want to point back to what Nug said. Like, this guy's got, how many million subscribers. He's got how many trolls out there or people that would say slandatory and derogatory things, and you can only take what you see or read on the internet with a grain of salt, whether it's coming from A, B, or C's YouTube channel. So when I see somebody posting something anonymous on Reddit, again, anybody can fake emails. How accurate are they? But once you see there's actual indictment charges, to me, that's game, set, match. The state and prosecution feel they have enough evidence to bring on indictment charges, and to me, that's all the evidence I need to see.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not a judge. These are all alleged, and I hate using that word, but we have to.
Yeah. Well, so there is a enormous difference in just allegations and then a grand jury looking at evidence and then coming down with an indictment 30 years later. I don't think people understand that 30 years later, they're not just going to just roll out that indictment for the fun of it. And
no, not at all. And the reason that's kind of why I kept quiet on my end is because I watched what Sam went through. I watched the fans or
Sam the Adventure Man.
Yeah,
I believe he's in the chat too, by the way.
Shout out to Sam because
and Mel
he went
too.
through some tough things. And thanks, Mel. Yeah, he went through some tough things, and I watched what he went through. And he had a good channel with a good following, and he had a lot of fans. And the disrespect and the troubles that he had to deal with because of this fallout, just because he was telling the truth and telling his story from his perspective. And that's all he was doing, is telling a story like the guy's been doing for years prior. And I didn't like what I saw, so I was like, you know what? I better just keep my mouth shut because I don't have a channel, period. So I know I would get the same, if not worse, treatment than he got.
Well, you kind of do now. It's scrolling in the chat, and we'll keep rolling that out there for you. Get you some momentum. And like I said, we really appreciate you being here with us, talking with us, and just being open and honest with us. And a lot of people are gonna. And only if you can answer this, I don't know if you can answer this or not. Were you aware, if anybody else was aware, that there were allegations out there?
No, and nobody said anything to me. I was in a group chat with 7 other team members, ranging from Jared, the CEO, other cameramen, and none of this was brought up in group chats or any emails that I was a part of. This was verbally with Jared and I. So I'm not sure. I can only imagine that if he's bringing myself on, making me sign non-disclosure agreements, making me sign employee contract agreements, that he would only do this to not most likely any new employee like myself, which he was hiring on a new diver, a new cameraman, and some other people to be in the second RV. I can only imagine he sent them the same, if not very close to the same contract agreement. And I would imagine he would have gave them the same heads up he gave me. And I like to put myself as the outcast. I'm on the East Coast. These other main employees are within his state, within a couple-hour drive. They see each other locally. So I can only imagine they would know more about those situations being locally to his family. And that why wouldn't he tell the other employees? Why would he tell me? Why am I the difference? Why would he give me the heads up about that and not some of the other more senior, let's say that, more senior AWP team members?
Yeah, and it's not fair, really.
I can't say that it did have it. I can't speak to them. Absolutely.
Right. That's not fair for you to try.
Why would he? Exactly. I agree with you.
But I agree with you. I mean, you can only speak for yourself, and you would imagine that he gave you probably the same treatment as everybody else. But what you're saying here is when he says, hey, there may be some allegations, there's this, there's that, and you're like, I'm trying to get a job here. This guy's going to be my boss. So, I'm not going to, I'm not in a position to question what's going on. Correct?
Basically, yeah. I mean, that, and I didn't want to maybe ask the wrong questions or overstep my bounds on something that could or could possibly not be true on something that I truly don't know what the situation is.
Right.
So why would I say something that could jeopardize my situation or piss off the potential boss that I may or may not be questioning him on facts or fiction?
Well, let me ask you this. Say everything worked out and you are currently a AWP team member on the payroll and this comes out. What's your reaction then?
I would have put up a video. I would have put up a video and left and went back home or said my piece, or I would have came out and said exactly what I'm saying now. Honestly, the non-disclosure agreement, the employee contract agreement doesn't scare me because of my situation that I'm in, but I still would have resigned and disowned and distanced myself as much and as fast as I could from AWP, like most of the other employees are. And I know Doug, and I feel like the guy cares so much about the goodness of what he's doing and what he found that he doesn't want to do the wrong thing to jeopardize any future he may have, whether it's publicly in another channel, his channel. So I can understand why some people don't know what to do. These guys have never been in remotely close to anything like this. They don't know the right thing to do. They're probably all trying to get attorney help or see what they're supposed to do, what they can legally. Like, this just broke a few days ago over the weekend, and they didn't have much time to do anything.
I believe that Nugs, the first day that I reported on this, that Nugs was in the chat and he saw what was going on and really kind of started processing it while the show was going on. I could see it happening, and it was, just a whole bunch of different emotions and a lot of people feel very strongly about what is going on, and rightfully so. I saw Doug's video yesterday. I have not watched I believe it's Josh who resigned today. Is that correct? Yeah,
Josh Cantu. He was the editor and filmmaker for one of the main guys.
And so he's done. It's, I can't speak for Doug, but what do you think? You think AWP survives and moves on with all new people?
I can tell you right now, the spirit of AWP is living on as we speak, because Britt from the depths of history said he's going to continue to try to help families and continue the search. I'm sure Nug's going to continue. I think he said that as well. I can't speak for any of the current team members or recently ex-AWP team members what they want to do or what their future they would like to do. I have personally talked to Sam, and there is talks of him going to do something on his own. And whatever he does is going to be good because he likes to do good things because he's a great guy. And I told him I would be more than happy to join up with him. And there's talks maybe next spring of us teaming up or him getting on the road. So there's no doubt that the spirit of helping and the spirit of passing along to others what you can is going to live on with a bunch of these YouTube channels and a bunch of these team members that used to be AWP team members. Absolutely. Definitely not under the AWP banner, that channel, or anything that I could imagine has anything to do with AWP or Jared.
It's more of the, like you said, the spirit kind of lives on, you know, the whole Kylie Rodney situation, and we can get into that here a little bit and talk about it. But I am curious, why? Tell me why it didn't work out with you guys for AWP. Why you never became that full-time employee on the payroll?
So maybe you can help me out with the timeline of the Kylie Rodney situation. But I can tell you that on 8/22, I asked, let me see, when was it? I had asked Jared what my travel details was, and this was on 8/23. I sent Jared a message for my travel details. He said, and I think that was a couple of weeks after he found Kylie. He's going on crazy media tours. He's blowing up. People are giving him $100,000 donations or Hellcats. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
His life is going crazy right now, and so is Doug's and everybody that's on the road. 8/23. Well, I'm back home gearing up, getting prepared to join them September 17th. I sent him a message on 8/23 asking with my travel details because, you know, I'm going to be out there soon. And he says, Doug's going to give you a call. I get a message from Doug. He's saying, hey, I'm sorry to do this to you, man, but we're going in a different direction. And that's what Jared told me to tell you. I'm sorry. That's all I know. Blah, 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 blah. I get off the phone with him. I called Jared, pushing for more answers.
Mm-hmm.
I say, Jared, what's the deal? Why are you guys doing this? He goes, oh, we're going in a different direction. We're going to use law enforcement help when we go to the towns and use it as a training exercise. Then we wouldn't have to pay for labor. I wouldn't need your help. And he said he already fired somebody else, another team member. And that was the excuse of why I got canned or didn't even get fired before I technically even started. But it was weeks after I had signed the contract agreement. And so I had nothing. What was I going to do? I had no recourse.
Yeah.
And they were going crazy right after the Kylie thing. And apparently, from what I gather from other people, there were some discrepancies on what may have happened or what they had seen or saw. And they went on Dr. Phil after it was vindicated, and they still didn't deny it. And they continued with apparently lying or leading people on to think something else. So there was a lot going on with them at the time. And that's, I think, around the time that I was told we don't need you anymore.
And tell people exactly, you know, you were committed to this. You went out and bought all kinds of new equipment. About how much money did you spend on all that new equipment?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wanted to make sure that I had everything I needed to do that work exactly how they are this way. Everything was interchangeable for the redundancies. And from when I signed, I waited until I signed that contract. So I knew I had an actual agreement to work. And on July 29th, I started preparing, buying different types of scuba gear. I don't know if people are familiar with backplate and wings, new dive computer, new full face mask, and I probably spent between $2,600 to $3,500 on this new dive equipment, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, so some of the things I bought on sale, some of the things I bought on with coupon codes. So when I found out that not only did I put my 2 weeks in and quit for AWP, but then he rescinds the job offer and doesn't hire me, I can't go back to my job saying, hey, can I rescind this offer? So now I'm without a job, and I just spent almost $3,000, a little over $3,000 on new dive equipment. So not only did he leave me without a job, not give me the job he told me he was going to give me, but left me with thousands in debt from the dive equipment that I purchased so I could have the same exact gear that Doug and Jared had on camera.
And did he tell you that that was something that you probably needed to buy?
No, to be honest with you, some of the stuff I wanted to purchase for redundancy and safety factors and other issues, but some of the gear he was going to donate that I wanted my own. Like he said, oh, we're going to have a full face mask for you. No, I wanted my own.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I bought my own things because I personally wanted it.
Yeah, you're not putting that on him.
Right. No, there's some equipment that he had said that we'll have everything you need, but if you want to buy your own stuff for this, by all means, that's on you. We're not going to pay for it. It's not going to be expense on the company. That's on your own dime.
Right.
And I went ahead and did so. I bought some nice gear. I bought new rain gear, a new rain jacket and rain pants because we search in the rain. Like I made sure I had the proper gear to be on the road with them and search all day and all night or dive all day or all night. And I tried to return most of it, and I did. I was successful, but not all of it I was able to, you know? So it left me in a tough spot.
Well,
and
also,
again, I couldn't go scream and be vindictive and throw dirt on AWP. That wasn't what I was trying to do. I just blocked AWP and blocked all of the channels and just went and got offline. Didn't want to see it. That was how
you were. I mean, you were obviously and rightfully so upset, but at the same time, he told you, hey, we're going to hire you, quit your job?
Yeah, he pretty much offered me. I explained to him what my current job was, what I was making. He said, I can offer you this. You're going to be working X amount of weeks throughout the year. So whatever you want to do in those other weeks is on you if you want to get a second job. But these weeks we're on the road, you're committing to be on the road in the RV. And I said, absolutely. I'd be more than happy to. And that's what I agreed to. Mm-hmm. So he knew and I even asked him, I'm like, I have on my text message, I'm like, you sure I got this job? I'm putting my 2 weeks in today. Yeah, you're good. Don't worry about it. Like, got a valid response from him. So he knew I was quitting my job for this, 100%.
Okay, so he knew you're quitting your job. He rescinds the offer. You're without a job. So then you're like, hey, I need to go get unemployment. Like, I'm hard up here. I need to file for unemployment, right?
Yeah, but right now I'm waiting because I put my 2 weeks notice in.
Right.
So I don't qualify for unemployment. Right. So I'm, trying to deal with the state of New York to try to work this out and get it. But as of now, I don't have it.
Right. So, I mean, you're basically, as we call it right now, SOL. And this is within what, the last 2 months, really. Now, you didn't pay much attention to the Kylie Rodney case because you felt, and rightfully so, that, hey, I should have been out there with everybody else, but I'm not. So I'm not out on that case because I was never planned to be on that case or that road trip. I was planned and supposed to start from May. The plan was to have me start middle of September of 2022. That was the whole plan from the start. But when they found her, I'm not sure exactly what date it is. Maybe somebody in the comments or some viewer can find out exactly what date that was. But on 8/23 was when I reached out to them to ask for my travel details. And that's when I was told, they called me back and verbally told me over the phone, I don't have the job anymore. On 8/23 is when I went dark from all of the comments, didn't watch any more of their live streams, didn't comment on any of their videos. But up until 8/23, I was invested watching, joining live streams in the comments, the whole 9 yards. Because I was considered to be an employee at that time because I signed the contract on
July 29th. I thought I was working for them, but I wasn't going to start until mid-September.
Let me crowbar this in real quick. I just picked up my phone and I'm looking at it, and you sent me something. Is this brand new, what you sent me? Did this just happen?
A friend of mine sent me that.
And so this is fresh,
I
like
figured
today.
I'd send it to you. I would imagine
Okay, so let me announce it too.
Something they put on, and it's all probably, auto ads or putting it on there, but somebody must have put that on their website.
It's a going out of business sale is what it is.
Yeah.
And so apparently on the website for Adventures with Purpose, and I'm not promoting them at all, and but this is very, very telling. It says that 70% off today on merch, gear, whatever the frig, they're selling. 70% off, and that seems like it's a fire sale. So that is interesting in itself. Wow. Talk about pulling the plug and heading for cover, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what that is. That's exactly what that is. Holy sheez. It's not every day you see a multi-million-dollar organization fold this fast. And
overnight.
Oh, yeah. And for whatever, this is the kind of reason that things like this, collapse, and rightfully so. But, it is encouraging to hear you say things, that you have things planned for the future, but wow, 70, that is just insane. I didn't see that until now, but I'm blown away by that, honestly. But, so let me ask you this. The emails that we've all come to see, and I believe that they're 100% legit. I don't want to beat around the bush and say, hey, it's not. I believe it. I believe these emails. Why do you think? Because I think the reason he's partially indicted is because of these emails.
I agree. And there was a point that people wanted to, assume that, because Jared mentioned in the emails that he doesn't have anything to hide. His employees see these emails. What he meant by that was there's only a handful of people that would have read those emails. It would have been Jared, his current wife, his daughter, or one other lady that helps out with the office stuff, because we started getting big recently, at least who was doing the human resources / payroll work that I was sending documents to via email. So it was only 4 to 5 people tops that could possibly have seen those emails internally. Doug couldn't have, Josh couldn't have, none of the other guys would have seen any of the daily emails on the support staff or any of those emails that Jared had.
Well, that's not what he says.
People to submit tips to. No, people had access to them, but for the most part, they were on the road working cases. And there was other people that had access to those emails, but when did they get access to them? I don't know, but those emails were from back in February.
Right, because I mean that was part of his thing. Like hey, I'm open and honest with my crew. They have access to the emails, and it's just like that was kind of his thing.
Don't get me wrong. There is certain at support, or there's certain different emails that he has that viewers can supply tips to and things and cases that they're working on at the moment, so they can get the info in real time. So yeah, there is certain emails that Doug can scroll through and look for tips, or hey, we got a tow truck guy, you got a flat, they'll come help you. There are emails they can access on the road on the RV, but there's plenty of different internal email addresses at support of AWP or whatever the email is. There's more than one. So on what specific email account it was and who had specific access to that email account, I can't say it. But Jared is right when he says other team members did have access to those emails. He's right. I'm hearing people that had access to all of them.
I'm hearing people say that there is no 70% off sale. I don't know if there is or not, but there should be if there isn't. Yeah, I don't know.
Somebody sent me that screenshot, and it was just an ad that popped up on them, so I didn't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know either,
Where,
and I don't really care. It's who cares? But it's a going out of business, no matter what. It doesn't matter if there's a sale or not. Now, the Kylie Rodney case, it became one of the biggest YouTube circuses to ever. Okay, it just ever on YouTube. And part of that was the conspiracies and the tow truck guy and the, I think that there's foul play and all this kind of stuff. Obviously it's a show, and there is some entertainment factor there. It's highly produced, edited by Sam, and I don't know others, but they do very, very good work. And do you feel that this was played up in order to cash in? I mean, obviously you can only speculate, but is that something that AWP was told to do?
Again, I can't say for that specific case because I wasn't there, but I know from other cases and other instances when I was there with Jared, there were, again, it wasn't like he would specifically say, hey, film it this way or hold it longer or do this. It was, what can we do to get the best shot, or what could we do to tell the story better? So would he want them to hold the camera in or film them, the family members crying from a distance if they didn't want it in their face? Yeah, like there would be things he would say or do or comment to get the best shot he could to maybe entice more drama or to make a better story or to get something better to film. Absolutely. Like that was, I don't want to say it was not like it was encouraged, but it was something that you knew he wanted.
Right. Which makes,
it wasn't a culture. That's the word I was looking for. It wasn't a culture of disgracing the family or, trying to traumatize them more.
Mm-hmm.
But in some of their videos, you could see, like, even as a viewer watching, like on Carrie Mae Parker, when the cop's telling him, all right, back away, there's a car on a crane that's decades old, that's falling apart, and it's crumbling above his head on this little inflatable canoe. And the cop's telling him on the bridge to back away, get away. And yet he continues to pick items out of the car because, you just push it that little further, create that the drama or that confrontation or just something to get a better, more clicks, I guess. And you knew it. And people could feel that, whether you're watching it or you're there on set or in person. So it wasn't like it was a culture where he specifically said, do this or do that, but you knew.
Do you feel like one of the reasons you didn't get hired was for him to kind of trim the fat and stop paying outside people?
I know he was definitely frugal, so I think he wanted to not have to pay employees their salary if he didn't have to. So if he could have 2 RVs on the road, instead of paying 8 to 10 employees, cameramen, divers, drivers, when he could pay 4 or 6 instead of 10, why not? When you can invite local free law enforcement to come in and volunteer their equipment, their services, and spin it as a training package to them.
Did you ever have any run-ins with Jared personally?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like nothing outside of work other than some of the comments that he might say or do being a little cheap or frugal, or leaning towards not having to spend money, or was one of the reasons he kept that old RV as long as he did, is because he knew every time he had a little flat tire or somebody popped a hole in the RV, they'd go up with a little live chat, donations come flooding in, and you don't have to be behind the camera to see and to quickly add up all the money that they make very quickly on these live chats. And you knew, all right, you got more than enough for that tire, but you keep going. He's like, yeah, this will keep us on the road for another month or 2 more months. And that was the culture, you know, get on live, get some donations.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, yeah, no, I understand exactly what you're saying. So Upchurch is saying, and I don't have any reason to disbelieve him or whatever, you know, he was part of the whole Kylie Rodney thing as well. But he claims that he donated $100,000, and I believe him. When somebody would make a large donation like that, how did that work?
Just as the same as somebody would make a $5 donation, whether they used his PayPal link, went to his website, or any other ways if he had to stream money in. I mean, there's even times people would come up and hand us cash on the side of the road or buy us food, or, you know, like family members that just got their loved ones found. You just solved their case, and then one of their family members drives up to your RV and hands you a handful of cash, and you're like, why? No, please, I don't want this. And how many times do you tell a family member no, don't, before you take it? You know what I mean? Like,
so basically, he was in control of all the money.
Yeah, I would imagine it wasn't like, other than cash that was given to anybody on the road or anything like that, any of the like digital donations like that, or I'm sure checks were getting mailed to him, anything like that, I'm sure him and his wife, or just him, probably had access to. I don't think Doug or any other AWP member had access to it other than a company credit card for food and essentials, drinks.
How much money did you get paid from AWP?
Not a penny. I want to make that crystal clear. AWP has never financially compensated me of 1 penny. But, however, on both trips, the Tennessee trip, my room at the hotel was compensated for half of the trip, and my whole expenses paid for the James Amabile case and week I was with Doug alone that we solved was all paid for. My rent-a-car, fuel, tolls, food. We went shopping, anything I needed. Doug, the credit card. Jared paid for it all. I gave him receipts for the car rental and everything. Jared paid for it all. He PayPal'd me the money for everything, every penny. So, no, did I make any money? Not 1 penny. But
yeah, no, like I'm not.
Some of the stuff was paid for,
like gratuity or whatever, you know, per diem, you know, whatever. I'm talking about a paycheck.
He didn't give me anything. Nope, I've never received any kind of payment from AWP or Jared Lelsek other than reimbursement for travel expenses.
Okay, and how long exactly were you with them, with these guys?
Well,
off and on.
Technically for 2 years, off and on for 2 years, but the 2 times I was on the road was specifically up front, volunteer, come help us out, be a safety diver for Doug, come join us, be a part of the team, hang out with us type of deal. The July 30th or 29th, when I signed the contract, that's when I technically became a paid employee from them, and my start date wasn't until September 17th when I would travel to join them on the road. So technically, I wasn't a paid employee until never, but it would have been July 29th. And when I started on September 17th, but I didn't make it that far. 8/23 was when they told me I was no longer employed. So I never received a paycheck, and I was technically only employed from July 29th when I signed the contract.
And so you weren't supposed to start until like
September 17th,
3 months ago
this year. Yeah.
You know, so that kind of goes in line with, you know, another question, and just, I know that I'm asking you to speculate or whatever, and if you can't, don't. If you don't want to, don't. Do you think that the Kylie Rodney dramatization was a going out of business, I need to make all the money I can right now situation?
Again, I couldn't say that, but again, the only thing that I could put two and two together, look and see what I could see from the outside, is if those emails were going back internally between Jared and the survivor on mid-February or sometime in February. So I'm sure shortly after those emails, the survivor must have contacted law enforcement, and I'm sure there was indictments sent out to where people had to come do interviews and testify on camera on what they may or may not know based on they were speaking about in these emails. So I'm sure, and this is all internally in their family. So whether it was the survivor or the alleged accuser, it was all internally in the family. So I'm sure wind got back to Jared very quickly from the time those emails were exchanged to the time the victim went to the prosecution and put in a complaint. So I'm sure this happened very early in 2022. So from that point on, I'm sure I know if I was in his shoes, I would be in damage control right from the very get-go. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, then you can only try to read between the lines whether you think he's the type of person that would, send the Hail Mary because he saw the curtains closing.
And let's circle back really quick to touch on something again. We have Anthony, former team member of AWP, on the phone with us. And again, Anthony, thank you for being here. Now, what do you know? Do you know anything about the tow truck situation, or is that something that you're not aware of?
No, because like I said, pretty much. Do we have a date on when she was found? When they dug and Nick did the live stream on when they found her? Do we actually have a date on that? Because it wasn't. I don't believe it was very long after that. Maybe within 3 weeks. Is when I went dark on 823 from all AWP, anything with Kylie. And again, it blew up crazy. So recommendations were having Kylie Rodini in there with AWP. Everybody was reporting on Jared and AWP. So I did the don't recommend on a bunch of channels and just went completely off any Kylie Rodini or AWP stuff after 823. So based on the timeline of when this controversy of the tow truck driver arose after they found her to where it correlates to 823, I'm not sure. So I can't specifically speak on that because I don't know anything about the tow truck, to be honest.
Why do you think he was so open in the emails about the situation? By the way, those emails are ridiculous. It's almost like just accept what happened and move on. Everybody else has. Why do you think that he felt comfortable enough to email about that?
Well, for one, I personally did see a change in his character, Jared's character, from the first time I started saw him in Tennessee to dealing with him about the job. I could definitely see a change in his attitude and confidence towards himself, and he always had a tendency to not belittle or talk down, but to use his words in a condescending way, or that he felt he didn't do anything wrong, or that he was going to get away with it 100%, or there was no ramifications that could be done at this point, because it seems like a very condescending employee scolding an employee kind of relationship.
Can you give me an example?
Just the way, the terminology, the way he speaks to her in those emails, like it's like an employer talking down to an employee.
And
like,
you've seen him do that.
No big deal. not seen him do that, but you could just the terminology
Gotcha.
and the way he would speak, you could put two and two together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could feel how somebody's speaking in the terminology, how they're wording certain things, and making it seem more official and vague as opposed to said yes or no, black and white. And you could see it, how it's typed out in those emails when people read them.
Do you so you think that
read him great?
So you think that he just thought, hey, I'm gonna get away with this, because one of the things that I think is somebody gave him some bad legal advice, probably, and that this has probably been in the works since the emails really surfaced, or were exchanged, not surfaced but exchanged, because I'm guessing prosecutors in Utah have them. He was probably under the guy, or thinking that the impression that there's a statute of limitations.
Not only that, but I can guarantee you, not guarantee you, but I'm almost 100% confident that when those emails were at the time of those emails getting exchanged, he thought there was nothing that could happen to him. Otherwise, he would have never have spoken the way he did, and in my eyes, admitted it clear as day of the things he did in those emails, if he didn't truly think he could 100% get away with it for whatever reason, whether it was statute of limitations, whether it was I could pay her off, whether it was my mom and aunt and her mom say it was fine, it's no big deal, we squashed it, whatever the case may be, he felt confident that there wasn't going to be any ramifications for those emails that during the time he was corresponding in those emails. Okay. Now, I feel confident that very shortly later, he realized he made a huge mistake in those emails. And I think that those emails are the key to the prosecution, is what I think.
I mean, there seems to be some acknowledgement in those emails that are going to be damning if it goes to trial. And tell me a little bit. So you're interested in going to the court hearing, correct?
Yeah, I would love to go there and look them in the eyes and sit with the prosecution or the victim's survivor side and to show support, because there's no mainstream media covering this. I would like to be there to be able to see exactly what happens when it happens, and just to find out, because to me, my victory would be to see him get handcuffs put on him, because that would be truly the best redemption I could get out of this situation, is to see it in person, to report back and to see what happens and tell the truth on what happens.
And if you want to make
get some light into this,
if you want to make a donation, and he's willing to show receipts and things like that, there are his Cash App is in the chat below. It's $600 for him to fly there. And he would love to attend if he could. So if you are able and willing, please feel free. Because that's going to be, it's going to be really interesting how people are going to have to stand up to what's going on. And I've seen Doug come out, and I've seen Josh come out, and I've seen others come out. Now, and it seems like everybody is kind of doing what you think would be expected, right? Heading out, but it's going to be, this very well could go to trial, because if he cops a plea, these things, so these are absolute, devastating charges against him. Okay. They're like 20 or 25 years go along with each count. It's crazy. I mean, these are absolutely insane charges. The indictment I read was completely, it was scary. And now, his sister is accusing him of things. There's no indictment for that. And those are just allegations, but it's hard to not consider them when, you know, he's indicted for exactly what she has been kind of yelling about for some time, correct?
Yeah, it's horrifying because it seems like there's this systemic issue or problem with something of covering this up within the family, because it seems like it was brought up to, I don't, what you want to say, matriarch of the family or the higher ups, but it would seem like some of the mothers and aunts and elders of that family were aware and did what they could to suppress or sweep this under the rug. And to me, that does nothing for the survivor to help her heal or to help her get over that trauma for the sister or their cousin. And it's sad and it's tough. And she spilled her heart out in some of the emails and the things that these two had to go through, not only during what happened to them, but for the decades after it, and the constant pressure to cover it up or the suppression that they must feel from within their family.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking.
When's the last time you spoke to Jared?
I haven't spoke to Jared since I want to say August 27th, 28th. He had shipped me back some items that I had left in the RV with Doug in March, and that was it. I had sent him back some items. He sent me back some items, and that was the last exchange. I spoke with Doug. I speak with Sam. I'm still good friends with them. Unfortunately, you know, Doug couldn't say much, even to me, because there's a clause in the non-disclosure agreement that they're not even allowed to talk with other employees.
You spoke with Doug recently?
Yeah, via text.
And how's he doing?
Via text. He's doing all right. He's trying to hang in there, but I can say when I asked him truly how he was doing, his quote was heartbroken, like so many of us. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I know Doug, and I'm gonna read into that he is not only heartbroken, but on so many levels of the positivity that he was feeling in his life of doing the kind of work he was doing, and you know, heartbroken over the survivors, and heartbroken over what has happened to the employees and what they have to go through now. And they're getting blown up from everybody left and right, whether to check in on them, see how they're doing, do an interview, or get their side of the story. And all these guys want to do is protect themselves. You know, they're, like Kevin said, they're just average guys. They don't have money for high powering attorneys to, you know, cover them in case they might send a message to their family member or friend wrong who was just checking in on them, or say something on a YouTube video that's going to get them hemmed up. But I mean, they got to worry about a lot too.
Let me see here. Yeah, you know, so have you, I know that you haven't been associated with them in some time. Have you received any kind of backlash?
No, since they fired me or rescinded the job, however you want to look at it. Since that day, I kind of went not dark, but I was in the group chats. They stopped using the group chats. They rescinded my Zoom account and Monday Workday account, so I wasn't able to access any of the videos or files, the shared files. So that was the last interaction I had with them, and none of the fans or any of the internet people, none of them knew about it, because I didn't have anything to say to anybody other than I sent Sam a text, or I sent Nug and Britt just to let them know what Jared did to me personally. But that was as far as it went. There was no backlash from any other team members of AWP, Jared, or any of the fans or people on the internet.
So it seems as though you had the rug pulled out from underneath you, and it's totally understandable. You know, I'd be completely upset as well, and it's hard to blame anybody for that. But you never saw anything that that indicated that he had a creepy side, a weird side, or was he just how was he socially with others, like families and things like that?
He was fine. I mean, he was, goofy Jared with his dad jokes all the time. And I mean, if there was one word I could use to sum up what he was like most of the time, or it would kind of be corny. Like some of his jokes were a little corny that would make you laugh. Like there was nothing that he would do with people or any of the outside of camera, whether we're at a restaurant or inside a hotel, or like nothing he would say that would give you any indication that he wasn't just like any other normal guy that might have made a comment about somebody or something, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it was just normal comments, just chit chat, whether with guys or friends throughout the day off camera.
How often did you think about what he told you that about these possible allegations? Was that something that stuck in your head the whole time?
No, and honestly, because he kind of, the way he brushed it over to where, because he used the words, it was in the family drama, it was, allegations within the family. So right away, I didn't want to overstep my boundaries, because not only are we going into family, but it's allegations. I don't know if this stuff is true or not. I don't know up from down what he's telling me. I have to take it as face value from what I've seen in the totality of knowing the guy. So at that very moment, no, I didn't think anything about it. But the moment Mel went live with it and somebody sent me a link and he showed me the charges, that's why I wasn't like Nug. Nug. I wasn't like him. I didn't have to process and go through the emotions. It clicked right away for me, because I was like, oh, that's what he was talking about with the allegations. That's what those Reddit emails that I saw were about. So like it all went in a line, clicked right then and there, because I'm like, oh, he's getting indicted. Charges are filed. That means those emails, that Reddit, all what Jared told me, all that's true. So right away, I had no qualms about coming out and telling what Jared had warned me about or gave me a heads up on, because it all made sense at that point. Why would an employee warn you about something like that? Hey, that's kind of strange. That should have been my first red flag. You know what I mean? Then seeing the Reddit emails, or that should have been a second red flag. You know what I mean? And then it was like, oh, now he's getting indicted. Boom. That's enough for me. He's 100% true. I don't need to process it or look deeper or make sure there was more evidence or this evidence is real. Like, those are court documents, case numbers. That stuff was real as it got. So it clicked right away for me.
Somebody in the chat, when I was first reporting on this story, they said, who leaked this information? And I said, the state of Utah leaked it. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry what he's indicted for. I mean, there's really not like much wiggle room that you can't interpret them any other way. I mean, they paints a simple picture of the actions, and they're horrendous, the things that he's accused of. I mean, the thing, like I said, nobody ever gets their name back. Even being indicted for something like this almost feels like you might as well already be guilty in a court of, or a court of public opinion, because even though, so sometimes people aren't found guilty, but they're not really found innocent. They're just, there wasn't enough evidence. I've heard DAs say that, judges say that. It's not that we don't think that this happened. We just can't prove that. And I don't think that that's really a case here. And I told you that, we're really keeping our eye on another case I spoke to you earlier about, with the similar situation, decades later, and people are now just getting comfortable enough to speak out and speak up, because these allegations are horrible, and what has been done to people 30 years means nothing. It means nothing. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. And I'm sure that, you'd agree with me on that, because it is something that is, in my opinion, a life crime. And yeah, the fact that he just, I bet you that's probably what he did with everybody else. Hey, there could be some nasty things said about me. It's just family drama. But he never mentioned being charged or anything like that. Like he could possibly face criminal charges.
No, and that's why he made it seem so nonchalant, like it wasn't a big deal to him. So why should it be a big deal to me? Because it was just some old family drama allegations that might come back up because of the YouTube getting bigger and I'm getting more popular. Like the way he spun it, because he's a good talker. Let's all be real and honest. So the way he spun it to me was, oh, it's no big deal. It was just some family drama, some allegations against me within the family that have been going on for decades. No big deal. And to me, I was like, all right. And then on top of that, I'm trying to get a job offer. So why would I question that or dig deeper into his family past? That, quite frankly, it's none of my effing business.
Sure.
His family, Mm-hmm. So that was my thought and state of mind at the time during that conversation when so many questions were coming into my head. But I'm like, well, let's, the opportunity could be way bigger than whatever possible downfall he could have from his whole family past,
How many cases did you work with him?
Cases altogether, probably 10, 15 plus cases, but I was only able to solve 2 cases with them, and I must have pulled out half a dozen cars with them over the time that I worked with them.
What was it like the first time when, because did you have a recovery where there were 2 bodies? Was that correct?
No, I had, both of my recoveries were single persons in the vehicle at the time. The first one was Bill Simmons. He was only missing for 4 to 6 months, not very long. That was the first case, first road trip in Tennessee. And then there was the one in April and March, and the beginning of April was the James Amityville case. And that was a tough one for myself, and I believe Doug as well, because that was we filmed that over a week. The first 2 days, the first day on the case, we found him, but we spent the next 2 days extracting him from the vehicle over a long, painless, timely process. And then once we believed we had everything out, we all went home. The vehicle stayed there. It was pinned to the riverbed by a pylon that was driven through the hood of the car when they built the dock over this guy's vehicle that was in the water for 20 years. So that was a tough one. We reconvened a week later to stage a crane to get in the proper equipment that we needed to extricate this vehicle that had a pylon driven through the hood of the car that we thought was pinned to the river bottom.
Oh wow!
That was probably the toughest. Not only physically, emotionally, there was probably more dives in those 2 days than I've done in a year. Like, we did a lot of diving in those 2 days to extricate Jimmy from the vehicle.
And you're a certified diver, correct?
I am. And that was another thing. There was a little controversy with AWP and some other popular diving channels like Dive Talk. Some of these members had the very minimum, I mean bare minimum of diving certification. And when I say that, I mean an open water certification. So if anybody Googled open water certification through one of the handful of diving school providers, whether it's PADI, Maui, SSI, their basic certification for any person over the age of 18 to go buy and fill a scuba tank is open water diver. So that's all Jared had. That's all Doug had.
Tell me a little bit.
There's way more.
Oh, go ahead. No,
there's
go
way
ahead.
more certifications they could have had or should have been using for the type of diving they were doing. And 2 of them that come to mind is full face certification and dry suit certification. You want to dive in any one of those 2, supposed to have a specific certification for that.
Mm. Right.
And they were very open about not having those and not wanting to get them or not needing it.
Wow. Okay, so tell me a little bit about him cutting off the other YouTube channels.
Yeah, so when I started, again, back in 2020, February or January, they had invited anybody in all YouTube channels. So there was probably between like 5 to 10 YouTube channels that have showed up throughout that week to be a part of it for 10 minutes, to be a part of it for the whole week, in and out, doing the live streams, doing their own videos. There was probably 6 people around, all filming the same exact car pulls for the same 5 different YouTube channels, all going live all day long. So he brought in a bunch of YouTube channels and saying, hey, if you want to volunteer, learn how we do this, come out, we'll show you, we'll teach you. And that's because they had 15 plus cars that they had found on sonar in previous trips. So they knew it was going to be a Herculean task to get all these vehicles out of these locations, on top of continuing to look for Bill Simmons. And he had other people with other technologies join the search. Team Waters, Dennis and Tammy from Team Waters came in. So like he had a lot of other resources coming to join forces to not only remove these dozen or so cars, but to find Bill Simmons and try to close another case. And there was a lot of great people that I met. That's where I met Britt from the Depths of History. That's where I met Nog from Exploring with Nog. I met Kevin from the Nomac Experience. I met Doug for the first time there, Jared, Sam. I met Sam's girlfriend there. I met Dan, the cameraman. Many people might not remember him, but he was there. He left before Sam.
Wait a minute.
Because he didn't like...
Wait a minute. Dan, the cameraman, and Sam, the adventure man?
Yeah, and then it was Jared Lelsek. Those 3 are for Adventures with Purpose. They were out there for a while, all 3 of them, going hard, solving cases together. And
who came up with the nicknames?
Just people. And well, Sam had his own channel, Sam the Adventure Man, and Dan was just Dan the cameraman, and people just gave him the nickname in all the chats and comments, Dan the cameraman, because it just flowed and stuck. And they didn't like the way, they were portraying the families or trying to quote unquote exploit the families for their emotions and their heartache. And
clickbait. We get blamed for
that's
that.
why they left. And Sam left because he wasn't, not only that was one of the main reasons, but he wasn't getting paid. Jared was releasing hats, stickers, magnets with 3 of their likenesses on, in cartoon characters, and was selling those on his website, making money. But yet Sam was at this point still a volunteer, getting paid very little, if any, from Jared. And Sam didn't think that was great. And that's why he stepped away.
I'd be Josh the oh my gosh. And they didn't give you a cool little nickname either? Did you? You had a nickname, right?
No, I didn't. I was just Anthony.
Did people call you Tony?
Anthony from New York. Yeah, Anthony from New York, Tony, doesn't matter.
Tony, he loves bologna. And I mean, I think that's funny, man. Look, you guys all, it's to ask people to pay for the sins of others is unfair. And I think that everybody that was involved in working for AWP, it doesn't diminish all the amazing work that has been done, because like you said, the spirit of it is different. Adventures with Purpose was an idea. It was a thought. It was no matter how it was formed or whatever, you guys have performed an amazing service to a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. There was the things that they were able to accomplish being private citizens was invaluable to some families out there.
Sure.
And that can never be taken away from any one of us personally, because of what we've done and what it means to us because of what we were able to accomplish, regardless of who may have been there with us or who was a part of it. It was still good for people in the long run, and it still made us feel good doing that. So that can't be taken away from any one of us. So
absolutely.
Again, I do feel and hope that, and I know other people are going to continue to do this. Again, some people might have to rebrand and delete some videos.
No question.
Try to distance themselves this from any way they can to continue, but it's got to continue in some way, shape, or form. And I know others are going to continue to do this because you can help a lot of people with the right resources and skills. And I did see a comment I wanted to clarify on. Yes, Team Waters, Dennis and Tammy were the ones who spotted Bill Simmons on sonar. It was their idea to check one more time at this location that had been already checked by everybody, including themselves. But Team Waters did spot the target on sonar, and we, as the team members of Adventures with Purpose, or volunteers at the time, did the extrication of the vehicle and removal of the vehicle. As once we got the vehicle on shore, that's when everybody stepped off, and that's when law enforcement found. Thank you, Renee B. That was your comment.
Sounds like a team effort to me.
Stepped in. It really was, because they were there. Other YouTube channels were there, and we searched high and low for like 5 days looking for Bill in all different waterways, all different ponds and rivers and entrances, all while having a central location where a dozen or so cars were being pulled out of. So there was people everywhere, and Team Waters was in it from the whole week, and they stayed an extra day. And thank God they did, because that was what helped find Bill that day, was everybody deciding to stay that one extra day, which wound up turning into more once we found him and pulled him out subsequently the very next day.
What's the future hold for Tony Doesn't Need a Floaty?
I don't know. Right now, I'm just trying to take stock of what has happened. Let the dust fall. I'm going to try to, survive and do the best I can. I'd like to be at the initial hearing, just to see him walking in, to see what happens, whether maybe he pleads or not. I'd like to be a part of that, documenting this process. So my short-term mission and goal is to get there and make that happen. But in the long term, I'm not sure.
I'd love for, that'd be awesome for you to get out there. And like I said, guys, his Cash App is in the chat. Please, if you can, feel free to donate. It's to get him out there. He wants to cover this, and we'll follow him while he does cover it. I mean, I believe that this does need to be covered, and I think you kind of feel like some of this it's coming full circle, and you need to kind of see this to an end, correct?
It is. I'm looking at it as karma, and I want to see this close to the end. And once I can see that and move past it, I think I'll, be able to consciously move forward and look at close this chapter of my life, and do that in peace, and know that I'm comfortable with it, because it was tough dealing with this. Don't get me wrong; it put me in a rough spot for a while, but the ultimate goal is to be able to get paid and do what I love to do, is to dive. So that was my ultimate goal with taking the job with Adventures with Purpose, was that it was not only to get paid to dive, but what other opportunities in diving could this lead to. And that was my goal and mission, just to do that and help families along the way.
What did you think, when this all came out, did you go, thank God it didn't work out with us?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to lie. I shot quite a few people text messages saying, wow, we dodged a bullet, because we could have been in I could have been in Josh's shoes or Doug's shoes right now, held by this non-disclosure agreement, being able to have people talk about me and say, oh, well, why isn't he saying anything? He must be on Team Jared or this or that, because we're bound by contract. So, I'm thankful I was able to dodge that bullet. And there was another story where he had a volunteer, myself, who met out in Tennessee. Great guy. His name was Roy. brought his boat out for us to use all week. Volunteered to go out on another trip with Jared and meet him up another state away, a few hour drive away from where Roy was living. And Jared never showed up, never called Roy, never told him the plans have changed or that his, road trip schedule had changed and he wasn't going to be at that spot he told him to be. And this guy, Roy, packed up his boat and drove a couple hours so Jared and them could use a real big, huge boat and donate his time and resources. And they totally, ghosted him, so to speak. And
was his name,
that wasn't cool.
Was his name Roy, your boat gently down the stream? I'm just kidding.
I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know his last name, but his name was Roy, and he did. He had a nice boat, and he brought it out for us to use and to shuttle people back and forth. Like, the guy was great. And
Roy, this boat's
Jared
not
did
a
that
toy.
to him, and he did that to Roy, and I was like, man.
Were there others besides you guys it doesn't seem like an isolated incident.
I'm gonna say, from the conversation I had with Jared and some of the people at Sam and Doug and some other people that were there at the hotel in Tennessee, was Jared kind of made a pact, and he's like, all right, if you're not in the group now, you're not coming in. I've had to have worked with you in the past, or we're not going to do any work in the future, kind of thing. That's what he was saying. He wasn't going to let anybody more into the circle. So the YouTube channels that were already working with him, people like myself. So it was just going to be those people. And he called prior to that happening in February. He would call on people and say, hey, I'm going to be in Florida. I'm going to be in Tennessee. I'm going to be in Texas. Come on out. If you have anything to donate, you got a boat, you just want to bring us lunch, like, come on out, hang out. You want to get a picture, whatever.
Bring us
lunch. He would invite people to meet him people would bring them food, or, he would say, oh, we're thirsty. We didn't get any drinks. And next thing you know, 5 people are showing up in the middle of a live stream, handing him sodas and drinks that they mentioned 10 minutes ago on the live stream.
Wow.
So, like, before that trip in Tennessee, he would allow people and fans to come hang out. And if you were a diver, if you had a boat, you would be right there with him, working hand in hand. If they found a car, you'd help them hook up the chains. Like, you were a part of the process. So he had a good list of people that he could call on and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area if you want to come back out, or hey, I'm going to be over here. No, people were offering their time and services all day, every day.
For free.
For free.
So he didn't need you, basically.
Up until till Tennessee, and that's when he was like, all right, I don't want to use random people, because he started finding a lot more missing persons. He started working with more families, more law enforcement. At this point, he couldn't invite the random YouTube channel to come meet him at this place to look for John Doe, because the family started showing up. Now you had 10 people there just wanting to take pictures and be fanboy it up with Jared, but yet the family members are 30 feet away hoping this man finds their loved one. But yet he's taking pictures with fans. So he put a stop to inviting people to join him on the searches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you weren't already joined him on a search in the past, you weren't going to join him on a future search. So after Jared staying off the road, I want to say at least since April, when he said that Doug was going to be by himself, would I go and help him? I said, absolutely. The excuse was he wanted to spend more time at home, less time on the road, because he spent a lot of time out on the road. So he wanted to spend more time at home with the family. So that was the story he was saying to the channel. And Doug was going out on his own. Doug reached out to me asking if I was free to help join him on this week trip, or a couple-week trip, as long as I could. I said I'd be more than happy to. And then when we ran into the adversity we ran into on that James Amityville case, how dangerous it was, how physical and hard it was, and how emotional it was, it gave me a strong bond with Doug to know if I can go through that with you, and I can trust you in those situations we were just in, I can trust you with my life. I am comfortable diving with you in any other condition, because any other condition would be a lot easier and safer than the ones we just dove in. So I developed a good rapport with Doug, and ever since then, it was just working with them. And
a lot of people are going to say,
and then that's where, I'm sorry, where I was going with that was, that's when I started putting it into Doug's head. I'm like, hey, Jared's been talking about a second RV. Jared's been talking about a second trailer. I would love to be that other full-time guy in that other trailer. So from the time I left Doug after we closed the James Amityville case up until Jared called me with telling me about those potential allegations for those 3 or 4 months, there was discussion and chat between myself and Doug and me and Jared, saying, hey, I'd love to be a part of the team. I could be the second full-time diver, blah, 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 blah. I did good work with Doug. Here's the video. You could see what we did. So that was the communication and how the full-time job led to getting an offer from Jared to become a full-time employee, was from that volunteer work that I did up until that point.
A lot of people are going to say about Doug and Josh, and whether fair or not, and I'm going to go with not fair, that that they knew more or whatever. I have no evidence of that, and nor does anybody besides them. Now, I do want to say this: I've had a boss before, and you really don't want to go prying into your boss's business, and it's just not it's not advantageous. It doesn't behoove you to do that. So, I can understand why, if anybody was alerted to anything, it's one of those things where first of all, you don't know the severity. Second of all, you don't know any details, and so. But it is going to be tougher for them to shake this off. You understand? But I believe that it can be done. So Doug talked about on his live a code, and I think it's kind of the same code that like the human race goes by. Well, most of us at least, is that anybody that harms a child in any way, shape, or form is not meant to walk around the earth free. Okay. And
yeah, that
may be the code that he's referring to, but it's not even a street code. It's not even a prison code. It's not even a, it's a humanity code. Okay. So I'm really, the person that is responsible for what is going on is Jared, and Jared alone. He put a lot of people in a really bad spot, and he's going to hold them legally responsible. Now, do you have a lawyer of any kind, or do you need one? I mean, is that something you're looking into?
I have contacted an attorney in the state of Oregon, based on my contract being bound to the legal requirements of the state of Oregon. But other than first a few initial calls, no, nothing's locked down yet.
Okay. And you're out of the state of New York, correct?
Yeah.
Well, I might have a lawyer that you want to
clarify. Oh, that'd be great. You could pass my info.
I certainly will.
I do want to clarify that I don't doubt for a split second that Josh or Doug knew about any SA or any underage female allegations. That for 1 second, did they may have gotten wind of some emails or may have seen the emails on Reddit? I don't know. Did Jared mention anything or warn them about any allegations? I'm not sure. I don't know. But I can guarantee you that they didn't know about any SA or underage female anything, because I know Doug, and there's no way he would have stood for that, and he doesn't stand for that. So it's definitely a touchy situation, because I know I was warned or given a heads up about something. I now know what that something was. I can't speak for them to know if they were warned about something, but I could only imagine that if I was, he would have given others who had a higher position than I did, held a higher position than I did, some kind of heads up about something. But again, maybe not. But I when they say they had no idea about anything, I believe Doug 100%, as well as I've never met Josh, so I can't speak for Josh or his character. But from what I can see, I don't think he would lie about something like that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Like I said, the person responsible is the person that's indicted. So, and I believe I have no reason not to. And by the way, I was going to say, all these NDAs that are going around that people are talking about, you're going to find out that obviously you guys should consult a lawyer. You're going to find out that they don't mean shit. And
that's what I figured. I think it's a lot of fluff, and it's just a lot of terminology and lingo that really breaks down to nothing. Because
what's it going to do? What are you going to do? You know how hard those things are to enforce.
And not only that, I feel like in the position he's in, and don't get me wrong, I know he's wealthy. He started out this year on live streams stating on video that he's had a $1.3 million budget to spend this year between the one and getting possibly a second RV on the road. And I know for a fact that they probably earned that alone since the beginning of the year in new donations, and they're blowing up. So I know they've got money for good lawyers to fight a lot if they had to, but what's there to fight if you're locked up for 25 years? So does he want to spend the rest of his money on fighting all these people with non-disclosure agreements because they don't condone his actions from decades ago while he's sitting in jail for decades? Like, it doesn't make sense to me. So personally, I'm not scared of the non-disclosure, but I'm in a different situation than some of the other members are, or ex-members are.
Yeah, and they should obviously take the advice of lawyers. But I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of these non-disclosures, and I can't remember one of them ever holding up. It just, especially when there's criminal activity involved, you don't have to be quiet about that. You know what I mean? And it's just not something that you have to do. So, I understand, that most people don't understand that at the moment, but I mean, those NDAs, I mean, they're just pointless. They're basically a scare tactic is what it is. But,
and
go ahead.
I don't want to point out any other companies, but it wasn't like it was a company provided lawyer services. It wasn't through a attorney's office, private attorney's office non-disclosure agreement. It was, let's say, generic from a lawyer's services.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
I don't want to use their name or put them out, but so if that gives you any inclination on the legitimacy or the strength of the clause or agreement, can't be that strong if it was coming from a lawyer service.
Friday, I'm going to have a civil attorney on from New York. His name's Tom Mortati, and he's going to talk a couple cases with me, and I'm gonna ask him flat out about this non-disclosure stuff. He'll know everything that there is to know about it, and I'll pass your name on to him. We'll do it, side to side, and see what advice you can get from him as well.
I appreciate it, because I'm not, again, too worried, because from 99% of the stuff that I'm speaking on all happened prior to me signing the non-disclosure agreement. So there's definitely nothing they can do about that. So it's,
what are they going to do? Fire you?
Exactly. So I'm not worried about a thing. I'm more concerned about the employment contract that I signed, because from what I gather, the moment you sign an employment agreement contract, you are technically that employee. So, and there are some obligations to an employer that they have to uphold once a person becomes an employee.
Right. Wow.
So
it seems as people. Is it true that he just bought a second house? And I'm not saying that he can't, or he should, or shouldn't, but did he really just buy a second house?
I caught that from hearsay from other people posting on live YouTube streams that there was a house just purchased, I think this year, for 1.1 or 1.2 million.
Awesome.
And I forgot what account or LLC that was purchased or done with, because they did some swapping a deed into a charity or an organization.
Oh, no.
So I think what they're trying to do is like remove that asset from AWP so it couldn't be taken away, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I know of at least 2 LLCs Jared and AWP have used since 2020 between correspondence of the agreements that I signed and emails with stamps at the bottom stating blah, 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 LLC. And it's 2 separate names, and that's not counting for any 501c or any kind of non-profit he may have set up that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, well,
but I know of 2 LLCs.
It's to avoid, it's a tax avoidance.
Yeah, but I know of 2 full LLCs. So
sounds like, that could open up that's his problem, man. I mean, that's going to be a whole issue in itself, and I'm sure that stuff is going to come under. That's the thing, though. Like when they're investigating this, it isn't just. I mean, they're going to investigate every aspect of his life. I mean, everything. There is no off limits. If they're going through, all they got to do is get a warrant, and they can go through they can do a forensic audit of this company, and who knows where it ends, but he's obviously tied up for the next 20 years in legal battles and possibly the rest of his life in jail. But that all remains to be seen. I want to thank you again so much. Again, Anthony's Cash App, his Twitter and YouTube channel are all in the chat. He would like to be able to attend the hearing, and I'm sure he'd gladly report back to us and talk to us a little bit about it. And I was going to say as well, I hope you start a YouTube channel. I hope you start doing your thing, and we'll always promote it here on the lab. You're a friend of the lab, and so I appreciate that.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the time, and I just want to thank everybody who stuck around to listen.
And I got to tell you, the chat, I've been watching it. They've been fantastic. You got a lot of support here, man. You got a lot of support here.
Like I said, I have nothing against anybody personally. Obviously, I hold a small grudge against Jared for what he did to me, but nothing to where I would do anything other than want to see karma come back and get him. And honestly, this is a horrible situation. I never thought in a million years this would come to happen, but I just want to show my support for the survivor and any other survivors or people that may be suffering from this epidemic in the country, really, because it happens all over the world, country every day, and it's sad to see. And I just wish people could hear the story or know what I went through, or bring one more set of eyeballs to the subject. So if it helps prevent them from spending their money on this cause with them anymore, I did my job, because I just want to let people know what happened from my side of the story and what I saw, and try to dispel any misconceptions or lies that may be told, or things that may have been said that aren't true.
Yeah,
because we all just want the truth.
We deal with that a lot here. And so anyway, I appreciate your honesty and openness, willing to come on. And we're rooting for you as well. And I'm sure we'll speak again in the future, and on, if you do make it out there, that would be awesome as well to speak.
Yeah. Like I said, if I get out there, I'd be more than happy to, supply you with updates and footage live, or being there in person, or,
awesome.
Whatever I can do to help you guys out, I'll be more than happy to.
Well, we appreciate that very much. We appreciate that. And we'll talk soon, Anthony. Thank you again for coming on.
You're welcome. Yeah, if you have any more questions, you got my info.
Sure will. We'll be in touch.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good night, man.
Take care. Well, there it was, the great interview. It's always nice to interview people that answer questions. That's a good thing. So he made it easy for us. Well, I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Like this on the way out. Please, if you have not, there's over 600 people in here, 320 likes. Come on, let's get those likes up. It's all I ask for. I appreciate you guys so much. You have no idea. Thank you for sharing, Max. Thank you for gifting 5 memberships. Teresa, thank you so much for your super chat. You guys are great.
Blazing the steel.
Take care.
Bring the heat. Mix it non-stop. With the hottest DJ.
I'm your host, Joshua Diaz.
Non-stop.
Everybody, have a great